Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Aarna Sahu, host of Aarna's News, where on this podcast channel, I aim to eliminate the gender gap in the STEM fields by featuring inspiring female professionals and highlighting their stories and accomplishments to further encourage girls. Today on episode 50.
The times that I cry the most saying, oh my God, I have failed, are the times that I look back on my most significant moments of growth and learning. And so I would advise my younger self to say, approach what feels like failures and the world is ending to being learning opportunities and being more proactive about framing it that way. Of course, it hurts. So of course, let yourself feel, but then reframe it to what is it that I can learn? How is it that I can action my learnings and take the next step forward, and trust that everything will be okay as you take the learnings and take the next step forward towards your mission, your vision.
Welcome to the long-awaited 50th episode. Before we start off with what's in today's content, I just wanted to thank you, the listener, for tuning into the past 50 episodes so far. It's hard to believe how Aarna's News scales from a couple of interviews I was doing to encourage my female friends in my school to pursue such fields, to interviewing CEOs, CTOs, and VPs of companies who have changed the workforce in STEM. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to bridge a gender gap in STEM and create a thriving platform. Today, on episode 50, I'm pleased to announce our guest, Kirthiga Reddy. As a truly impressive woman she is, let me tell you a bit about what she's done. As a co-founder and CEO of Virtualness, a platform designed to help creators and brands navigate the complex world of blockchain and Web3, co-founder and interim CEO at Ladder, a social impact initiative with the mission of stepping up careers of 10 million moms, founding investment partner of F7 Ventures, president of Athena SPACs. She was also the first employee of Facebook India and the first female investment partner at SoftBank Vision Fund. Furthermore, as someone who has gone to the New York Stock Exchange multiple times, she has truly done it all. Now on the stage, here's Kirthiga Reddy. So thank you so much, Kirthiga, for being here today. Before we dive into the questions, would you like to introduce yourself?
Aarna, so excited to be here and so deeply resonate with your vision to eliminate the gender gap in STEM. We really need diverse representation in the field so that we can build truly innovative, ethical products that represent the population and the people that we serve.
I'm so excited to talk to you. You're basically my role model, so this is a very monumentous day for me.
So excited to be here and inspired by what you're doing.
Thank you. So my first question for you is, tell us a bit about your career path.
Yeah. So Aarna, I am a builder turned investor going right back into building, engineer and a product leader by background. My first role after I did my graduate study in engineering was with Silicon Graphics, which was a high-performance computing company. And our computers were used in what felt like everything momentous happening in the world, whether it was the landing on Mars, the Human Genome Project, the making of Jurassic Park. If you haven't seen it, or if you've seen it a long time ago, go watch that movie again. But I was able to witness the really versatility of the skills that I got in my engineering degree and the wide range of applications that it could be used for. So that was where I started. And most recently, as you mentioned, was the first employee for Facebook in India, and saw a country going digital and mobile and the impact that it had on people, businesses, society. Did a brief stint on the investing world, where I was able to work with founders who are using technology to change how we live and work. And that got me inspired to go back into building and entrepreneurship. And here we are, where I see Web3 being where internet was when I started with Facebook in India, and I look forward to realizing the potential of blockchain and Web3.
That's so impressive. I really love how you're able to do so many kickstarting things and really just perspired from there.
Yeah, well, I believe the best is yet to come. And so all of the accomplishments ahead of me are going to be even bigger, and the impact that I can make is even bigger than what I look back in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, so my next question for you is what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours, and do you have any tips to succeed?
Aarna, what I've realized over the years is that success, one, is not a cookie cutter formula, and two, everyone's definition of success is different. And that said, if I then had to distill it down to think through what advice would I have and what I look back on my career, it would be, as cliche as it sounds, follow your dreams, follow your passions, and really see what pulls you and makes you want to act on something, whether it is a problem that you want to solve, a cause that you believe in. Success is less about trying two interested formulas and actually more about carving your own path. And so really think about, that aspect. You are here doing this podcast because you have a passion for eliminating the gender gap in STEM. And that will take you much further along than anything that someone would have told you, or anything that you would have read about in a book as that's what leads to success. I remember, to give you one specific example, back in my undergrad, where artificial intelligence was newly introduced as a course in the school, right? And it was introduced actually as an elective that the school could offer. I crusaded to say this elective must be offered in the school because this is the next big thing. Of course, it took a few decades for it to really become the next big thing. But I rallied a bunch of students to say this course must be offered. And sure enough, the principal listened. We didn't even know who would teach the course. We didn't know what the syllabus was. But that was the first time that artificial intelligence was taught in my undergraduate college. The takeaway for me is truly that, is to act on your instincts, to act on your intuition, to use your voice, and know that everybody's voice actually matters more than you really think might be possible. So use your voice on the your interests, your passions, the causes, and the problems that you want to solve, and take one step forward. And from that comes a body of work that you can look back on as success.
Yeah, I really liked what you said. Find your passion and use your voice to really utilize it and just kind of submerge into what you really like. Because often in life, we kind of just think about, oh, what's the next thing? But we don't really choose what we actually enjoy because, of what's around us. But just finding a thing that really aligns with you and just internalizing that and just making that the next big thing that you really want to focus your time on, that's something that you should definitely implement in your life.
And Aarna, I will further double click on that and say, as we do different roles, to also be fully present and enjoy the current moment as much as we think about what's next, because otherwise we get into this whole phenomena of, oh, I want to get into this amazing school. And then once you get into that amazing school, you're immediately thinking about, and this is the next thing I want to do, and the next thing I want to do. But absorbing the fact that where you're sitting here today is what you aspired to do yesterday, and also fully being present and enjoying the moment while you also think about what's next is an important part of living life to the fullest.
Yeah, it's like this domino effect because personally, what I do is I always look at the next big thing. I don't really enjoy the moment right now. And then when I'm at that next big thing, I kind of get nostalgic that, oh, why didn't I spend that time, better and live it to the moment? So it's kind of a regret I have, but something that I'll definitely fix upon.
Amazing. Amazing. It's all work in progress. We're all work in progress.
Yeah. And what is a common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
One is what I just said, is it's not a cookie cutter formula. Two, while people see maybe the flashy nature of each one of our roles, one doesn't see often a lot of the hard work that goes behind it. So Aarna, let's take this episode itself, right? People will see the amazing leaders that you have featured in this now 50th episode. And what they will not see is the persistence that you had in reaching out one person at a time, all of the preparation, all of the logistics, all of the setup. And so it's very hard to miss all of the hard work that goes behind what people might see, which is just the tip of the iceberg. So make sure that you're ready and prepared for a lot of heavy lift to also realize the successes and the impact that are more visible to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a really big thing that a lot of people kind of see, because on social media, I mean, people always have this cool title or this cool like network amount or something that's really flashy, like what you said. But just knowing that there was probably a lot of other stuff that went behind it, you know, the logistics, the carryover, the work that kind of went into it to endure that specific moment. And that's not what a lot of people see. So just knowing that there's a lot of stuff that happens beneath the cover and just being okay with that and kind of, you know, finding your own passion in things.
Totally, Aarna. And two other things to add to that point that you made. One, careers are not linear. After my first role as an engineer at Silicon Graphics, I rose very quickly through the ranks. I was a director of engineering. I started spending more time in the business side, really enjoyed the business side of things, then pursued my MBA at Stanford. And after my MBA, one would imagine that one goes to one of the best business schools in the world and gets a title raise and a pay raise. Well, I decided to go to a startup. And so I went from being a director of engineering at a 9,000 people, $2 billion company to being an individual contributor, product manager. Because it was a startup, it was small, a flat team. And I took a 40% pay cut to go to this startup because in a startup, the equation is more in your equity payout versus pure compensation. And I remember agonizing about whether this is going to look bad on my resume. I was a director of engineering, then I did my MBA, and now I'm an individual contributor. I spoke to my mentors, coaches, and someone, Jana Rich, who runs a Rich Talent Group now. She told me, Kirthiga, if this is a short-term move, it's probably a bad thing. But if this is a long-term move, an industry that you like, a function that you like, all of what you have done will help you rise very quickly through the ranks. And so it is the right thing. So if you looked at my LinkedIn, you will only see director of engineering, because sure enough, I did get promoted, very quickly in my role, given all that I'd done and the passion that I brought to my work. So you will see director of engineering and then director of product management. But if you look deeper and read the next level, you will also see the twists and the turns that led to that what seemingly feels like a linear career. There are many, many non-linear twists to what seems like a linear career.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another testament that there's a lot that happens behind the cover. I mean, when you're on LinkedIn, the drop-down menu just says director of ... But underneath the actual description, there's like so much other that happens. But not a lot of people see that. So it's kind of another example of what we just said.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And my next question for you is, if you could step into my shoes or younger self, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
I have learned over the years, Aarna, for example, that, the times that I cry the most saying, oh my God, I have failed, are the times that I look back on my most significant moments of growth and learning. And so I would advise my younger self to say, approach what feels like failures and the world is ending to being learning opportunities and being more proactive about framing it that way. Of course, it hurts. So of course, let yourself feel, but then reframe it to what is it that I can learn? How is it that I can action my learnings and take the next step forward? And trust that everything will be okay as you take the learnings and take the next step forward towards your mission, your vision.
Yeah, I liked what you said. Reframe what you feel and just kind of look at the positive outlook because, as you said, when you're in a little bit of a rut or you're not feeling too swell, then, just looking back at the moments when you felt like you really persevered or really made a change or a really happy moment, you can reframe that negative mindset into something that could actually kickstart another journey into your career, not only professionally but actually personally. So just having this type of mindset that, oh, because I'm feeling a little bad, I just won't take this as an opportunity to grow, but I can actually take this moment and kind of kickstart a new, journey.
Totally. This thing called inner voice is real. And so the more you can shut off that inner voice, heed it when it needs to be heeded, but also put it in its proper place and make sure you are in control versus the inner voice is in control is an important aspect that I have learned. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have that inner voice too. This inner voice keeps on saying, oh my God, Aarna, you could have done this. You could have ran that extra mile. You could have done so much more things, but just shutting it off when it has to shut off is something that's very, very helpful.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a story and a visual, okay, to reinforce this point. So, Aarna, let's say you and I walk into a Starbucks coffee store and we see this woman who is just radiates peace. And she's sitting, she is reading a book, she has a big smile on her face, having a cup of coffee, and she is in her zone. And there walks in someone who walks up very aggressive to her and starts yelling and says, you know, what are you doing? What's this choice of book that you have made? I mean, look at how you look at how you're, slouching. What's the choice of coffee that you have made? And just goes on and on and on and on. What would your reaction be towards that scenario? We're just looking in and we're watching, observing this. What would your reaction be? What would you feel?
I mean, I'd actually feel a little hurt because I'd want that person to stop shouting at this person who's reading their book. Just tell them to mind their own business, because it's a Starbucks and everything there should be calm.
Yeah. Well, now think of that person as your inner voice who is constantly telling you about what to do differently. And if you felt that emotion for someone you did not know, let's make sure that we have that same emotion for ourselves and be kind to ourselves.
Yes, it all comes back to being kind to ourselves.
Yes.
All right. And my next question for you is, what are the best resources/books that have helped you find your career path?
When you ask me about best resources, it has to be people. Really invest in surrounding yourself with people who almost believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And I feel very fortunate to have my parents who played that role, my husband who plays that role, and friends and mentors and sponsors over the years who play that role. And that has been my biggest learning and my biggest source of bouncing off ideas and getting inputs from them and really using that to incorporate. I might not always agree with what they say, but it's really important to get those inputs and then internalize it to think about what that means for you. So that's one. If you think about books, actually, my father early on gave me, I don't even know whether this is still popular among your age group, but he gave me this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And essentially, if I had to give you a TLDR, it says be authentic and be your true self. And so that was an important message early on in my upbringing, to be authentic and be yourself. By the way, he's also written this book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, which, going back to our previous discussion, is very relevant. So that's one class of books that I read early on. And certainly as a professional, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a classic and always will be. Lean In has also been a very instrumental book in my life, Aarna.
I've liked what you said. Just I like the books that you really said because those books, they seem really, really interesting. And also, I really liked how you said that you should be authentic. Although it was a TLDR, I'll definitely read it. But just taking in perspectives from other sources, like what I do with my dad, whenever he tells me something that I have to do or I ask for some help because he's one of the mentors that I look up to, though he may not always be right because he's probably listening to this after this is going to be posted, but his perspectives and thinking kind of helped me kickstart into a different type of mindset, and just being authentic with myself and just knowing what I want in life can really help me become who I want to be.
Amazing. And always listen to your mom and your dad. No.
Of course. And what do you think is the vital factor that shaped your career? What was your life before learning it, and what was your life after learning it?
There were many moments where I would say I was tested with uh, what is the norm and what is commonly accepted by community and society, including, for example, the example that I gave you about the next role I should take after Stanford Business School. There is a certain mindset about what's the norm, but I broke the norm. But it was that role that then that company, that startup that I joined got acquired by Motorola. It was with Motorola that I went back to India. And it was when I was in India that I Facebook became a really large part of how I connected with my friends in the United States and how I reconnected with people in India. And that led me to reaching out to Sheryl Sandberg, who was the CEO of Facebook. At this time, Facebook was about 1,000 people company, and telling her how much I loved Facebook and would love to play a role to build Facebook in India. So it's those nonlinear decisions that then led me to what I look back at opportunities of a lifetime. So those are the things that I think about, Aarna, when I think about your question.
Yeah, I feel like what society thinks are the risky things that you probably shouldn't take. Like as you said before, after going to Stanford, for your MBA, people would think that, oh, you should probably scale up and go to a bigger company or maybe have a bigger role at the same company. But what you did was something that probably wasn't socially accepted, quote unquote. But just the things that you learned from that place probably was much more impactful than what you probably would have learned at a bigger company because you started out small, but you kind of scaled out. You wore
Totally.
different hats. Yeah, totally. So I feel like although it might not be correct in other people's eyes, as long as it's true within yourself, you should be good because in the end, it's just you who's going to be with you.
So, and one book there's a book of shoulds versus must. And I just heard this in a talk this morning is say, stop shoulding on yourself, right? Stop thinking about, I should do this and I should do that, but really think about what you must do and what is it that your heart and mind calls out to as things that you want to look back on.
I really like that because as someone who always thinks and has a plan of everything I have to do, if I don't complete this one thing that day, I'm going to be like, oh, tomorrow I have to do this, or tomorrow I have to complete this section of the course. And it's just a horrible mindset. And I'm like, oh, I have to do this. I should do that. But just knowing that, just take a pause, enjoy the moment, and then you can actually do what you're doing.
Totally. And by that, Aarna, of course, you and I know that there are things like milestones and deliverables and accountability and it's so important to say what you do and do what you say. But I think the examples that you are talking about are more those internal goals that we set for ourselves. And what is it that we penalize ourselves for? While, of course, it's really important to live up to commitments to others. And of course, things change. Communication is key when things change to make sure that you continue to build on that trust of people knowing that you will say what you do and do what you say.
Absolutely. And because we have some additional time, I have a few more questions for
Okay.
you, which is what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career path?
We touched upon this a lot in terms of, the moments that were the hardest were the moments of learning. What I will also say is It's especially true of your generation that you will see 5 to 7 careers in your lifetime, not jobs, careers, right? I'm not Gen Z, but I have seen those 5 to 7 careers, whether it's that of being an engineer, a product leader, a sales leader, a business leader, an investor, now an entrepreneur, and I have many more such roles in front of me. So really appreciate that diversity, and know that any one decision doesn't determine the rest of your life. It is about what's right for you at that moment of time. And I often feel people agonize a lot about individual decisions, but taking it in that spirit of, this is the best decision for me at this point of time. And there might be a different best decision at a different point of time, and embracing those decisions. A lot of times it's about making decisions and making it work. So go in with that spirit and know that you will have 5 to 7 careers in your lifetime on average.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's 2023. I mean, with the rise of ChatGPT and so many other things, I mean, everybody has like a different type of say in life. Like they can go the educational path for school, or they can, start a company, or there's so many things. But just knowing that, as we said before, careers are not a linear path. There's always going to be something that probably is going to be non-linear, might stag you down. But there's so many different embracing educational opportunities there that can really help you thrive in the long run than what you might think in the short term.
Totally.
Yeah. And how do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of things within your role?
People continue to be a mainstay. And I think it's really important for each person to understand what is their individual learning style. For me, it comes from having conversations with people, and being able to discuss, being able to debate. That is the biggest and the best way that I learn. But there are so many other sources, and it's about each person understanding what helps them learn the most. Podcast, like look at what you're doing with this series, right? There are the most exceptional podcast. And when I, for example, started my VC career, VC20 by Harry Stebbings was a staple for me, and it continues to be a staple for me. So leaning into the information that is so readily available, leaning into people, and as they say, the practice of anything gets you further than the pursuit of anything. So if you really want to know about AI and ChatGPT, just finding those 15, 20 minutes a day to practice and jumping in is going to get you much further than sitting and thinking about what is it that you want to do to get further along. So, and by the way, that the practice of anything gets you further than the pursuit of anything is applicable to you can substitute any word in that: the practice of excellence, the practice of success, the practice of being physically fit. And substitute any word, go practice, gets you much further ahead than pursue it.
Yeah, and it kind of grounds back to the educational part of it. I mean, the practice is much better than the pursuit of whatever it is. I mean, if you practice yourself and you try to, like discipline yourself to learn something, it's much better than if you're trying to catch that title or that flashy role or something, because in the long run, whatever you've learned and the different hats that you've worn so far, those are going to help collect you to the place you're going to be in the future, and that's going to help you ultimately get whatever you want.
Amen.
All right. And other than what would you do if you were afraid? I remember that quote from Falcon X. Do you have any other quotes or mottos that you love to follow and would like to share?
Well, we spoke about the practice of anything gets you further than the pursuit of anything. So I would certainly want people to remember that. But if there is one quote that I will leave us with, it is when businesses succeed, livelihoods flourish. I remember each one of my professional stints as in terms of the impact that it had. My favorite Facebook India story, Aarna, for example, is when the founder of a fast food chain, Maskalandar, she came to me and she said, Kirthiga, I have to tell you a Facebook story. And it's so awesome that no matter where you go, people have a Facebook story, an Instagram story, a WhatsApp story. And in this case, she told me, She said, Kirthiga, my cooks, most of them don't know how to read and write, but they know how to use the phone and they know how to use Facebook. I was surprised and taken aback by that comment. And I asked her, so what are they doing on Facebook if they don't know how to read and write? And she showed me their profile pages. And sure enough, there were pictures of their children being uploaded, videos of festivals, interaction with media and content. And there it was, an example of how technology, in this case, was helping overcome literacy barrier and allowing people to create community across the nation. So I remember all of my professional stints in the stories of the people that it impacted. There was another woman who started posting pictures of bridal flowerware that she was creating. People started commenting on it, and then they said, oh, can we buy it from you? And now she runs a woman-owned organization that supplies, bridal flowerware all across the country. So when businesses succeed, livelihoods flourish. And my wish for everyone listening is that you think about the impact that your work has. The world has so many pressing challenges. And as we talk about STEM, never before have we seen this many technology changes all happening at the same time, whether it's AI, whether it's computer vision, whether it's IoT, Web3, blockchain, you name it, and quantum computing. And really, we need every one of us to lean into the use of technology for good, being aware of the bad sides of technology and proactively addressing it, and leverage technology and build businesses for good.
Thank you so much, Kirthiga, for being here today. You're literally my role model, and I'm so grateful to have been able to talk to you and connect with you. I'm going to cherish this interview, and once it's posted, I'm sure everybody will love it as well.
Well, Aarna, kudos to you for what you're doing. And we all share the mission of eliminating the gender gap in STEM. So let's do this.
And here are my 3 cents on this episode with Kirthiga. 1, success is not a cookie-cutter formula. Kirthiga emphasizes that success looks different for everyone, and there is no one-size-fits-all path to achieving it. She advises following your dreams and passions, carving your own path, and using your own voice. Success is about being true to yourself and being fully present in the current moment. 2, careers aren't linear. Kirthiga's career journey had twists and turns, including transitioning from engineering to business, taking a pay cut for a startup, and making unconventional choices. She wants to debunk the myth that careers follow a straight and predictable trajectory. It's important to embrace a diversity of experiences and be open to new opportunities that come your way. And 3, surround yourself with supportive people. According to her, one of the best resources for finding success in your career is the people around you. Surround yourself with individuals who believe in you more than you believe in yourself. Seek out mentors, sponsors, and supportive friends who can help provide guidance, inspiration, and valuable insights as you navigate your professional journey. Thus, that concludes the episode for this week. If you want to know more about how I relate to these amazing topics, then stay tuned for upcoming episodes. A free way to support this show is by leaving it a 5-star rating and a review on the player you are listening to. Let me know what you enjoy about this podcast, as it's a chance to tell me what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. Once again, thank you for finding me, and I hope we stay in touch with each other. Zito, you're listening to Aarna Sahu, the host of Aarna's News. Toodles!